Welcome everybody to another edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, The Islander, and I'm going to go ahead and recover the results. It's going to be a very short show. I know all of you are tired of me babbling on for 20 minutes, so just to give you an overview, it's going to be quick, because here's the way we're going to do it from here on out. And then we've been doing this way for, this is going to be the third year starting. What we're going to do is review last week's results, and the fights that are going to be televised this week we'll preview. So week ending, what was it, the 11th, January 11th, which was yesterday, we're going to review those bouts, and I'm going to go over them real quick with you. The only thing we covered in the preview show was the premiere of ESPN's Friday Night Fights, in which, it's here in the U.S., Juarez Gamboa headlined that card. There were 3 fights that they had showed, and all 3 fights from Prim, Nevada had chronicled the former Cuban amateur standouts. Of these 3 fights, the first one, in which a gentleman named Larrra, I don't know his first name, Erslande Larrra, scored a first round TKO over Rodrigo Aguilar. High contact, very impressed with this guy for a 4-rounder, and this was in the junior middleweight division. Crazy skills as far as the straightness of his punches. He's a southpaw and landed great shots all round long. Aguilar tried his best to dig shots to the body and finally got rocked at the end of the first round, and a right jab with a straight left behind it right through the middle of his guard, put him flat on his back, and he got to his feet and they stopped the fight rightfully. He was going to get hurt. That was fight number 1. Fight number 2 was Solis taking on Kevin Burnett, Pat Burns' student, and it was mildly interesting as it lasted, but the real skills rested in Solis' hands, who looked like he was quasi out of shape. I don't know if that's his regular body structure or not, but it ain't going to cut it at the elite heavyweight level. And he finally cracked Burnett pretty good, hurt him a few times in the fight with his left hook, and cracked him pretty good in the 8th round when he started teeing off on him. And the real damage was evident after they stopped the fight, and the referee was helping Burnett back to his corner. He almost pitched forward on his face. He was out on his feet. And then the main event, Juarez Gamboa took on, in a 10-round featherweight fight, Roger Gonzalez, who had been stopped in his last fight. And in the second round, everybody was kind of, even Teddy Atlas had predicted a 3rd-round stoppage, and I was expecting somewhere up until that time, no more, that Gamboa would stop him. And much to our surprise, Gonzalez took a different approach in this fight, where he tried to stay away from Gamboa and counter him. And it worked pretty good in the 2nd round, because he cranked out an overhand right that caught Gamboa. He wasn't expecting it, and dropped him to a knee. He was back up at the count of 1. But again, his defense leaves quite a bit to be desired. Gamboa eventually won this fight that I was kind of dozing off watching. In the last 48 seconds of the 10th round, when the referee finally called a halt to the fight, I don't know why he just didn't let it go the whole distance, because there was only 45 seconds left, and Gonzalez wasn't any more hurt than he was any other time in the fight. So good win for Gamboa. Looks like he is going to be fighting for an interim WBC belt, which is this title has been trashed. It's Oscar Larios' title, the WBC featherweight title. It's been trashed ever since Jorge Linares decided to move up in weight, because you got Larios, who's not allowed to fight in the United States. He's just suffered a brain bleed in his fight against Linares. He's been fighting in Japan and Mexico, and now he's on the he's hurt. He's on the cuff, and he's going to be fighting, I guess, Elio Rojas, who's supposedly, a real rough tumble contender, and was expected to beat Larios, and Gamboa's going to be fighting him, and then the winner's going to be mandated to fight Larios. Okay, in Germany on the 10th, which was Saturday, doubleheader here, a mild upset in one fight. Karoli Balze of Hungary, Balse, scored an upset unanimous 12-round decision over Dennis Inken. Mild upset. I didn't see this, but don't get me wrong. And supposedly Balse was separating himself from Inken as the fight went on. Neither one of these 2 guys would be competitive with Joe Calzaghe for very long. Maybe they would go the distance, I don't know. In the main event, business as usual in the light heavyweight division, in which Zulte Erde retained his title by unanimous 12-round decision. It's the instant messenger. Bear with me 1 second. Just waving the fight off. In which Zulte Erde retained his WBO light heavyweight belt for the umpteenth time against Yuri Barashian, in a fight that was just typical of every other one of his, from what I understand. That's it for the results. All right, real quick, this week's fights. The 16th, Friday night fights in Key West. We can only just imagine being there. ESPN. 2 fights on the card. Buddy McGirt Jr. is going to be fighting Angel Hernandez in, I believe, a super middleweight contest. And then Aramisol Albert, as we might remember the last time I saw him anyway, he was on the receiving end of a first-round knockout at the hands of James Kirkland. He's going to be taking on to be determined. Somebody backed out of this fight, and I forgot who it was, got sick. If you remember, just post a comment. Also that night, Showtime has a Next Generation card in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in which Leonelio Miranda is taking on Orlando Cruz in a 10-round featherweight bout. Saturday night, the big fight for us here in the United States and as well as around the world. In Biloxi, Mississippi on the 17th, WBC welterweight titleist Andre Berto makes title defense number 2 against Luis Collazo, former WBA titleist who lost his belt in mildly controversial fashion to Ricky Hatton some years ago in Boston, Massachusetts. Alright, what do I think about this fight? Not that some of you really don't care. Well, I wonder to myself, is Collazo really that big of a threat to Berto for Lou DiBella to and Berto's people to really risk putting him in with this guy? I guess he might be the lesser of several evils, but think about this. Defensively, he's going to give Berto some trouble. His speed's going to probably give Berto some trouble. And unlike Steve Forbes, Collazo actually can hit with a little bit of snap in his punches. A lot more than Steve Forbes hit Berto with. And Steve Forbes found a home for a lot of his shots over and over again. Now the question is Luis Collazo ready for the dynamic offense of Andre Berto? Well, he has seen Shane Mosley, he has seen Ricky Hatton. There's nothing I don't think Andre Berto is going to really show him, at least in my mind, that he hasn't already seen. And I guess the best scenario would be, I think this fight's a toss-up. Flip a coin and think of who's going to win. Here's the way I really feel. I feel that Collazo is really going to assert himself, and Berto is too. But don't be surprised if Berto wins a very tight decision that we all think should have gone Collazo's way. That's just the way I'm thinking it might go. Okay, telephone, I should have disconnected the cord. I'm not going to do this video all over again because of it. Alright, next up, January 17th. Also, if you have Azteca America Network, I don't have that. Azteca America. From Hermosillo, Mexico, Jose Luis Castillo's fighting a 10-round welterweight fight. He's going to try this again. It didn't go too well last time against Sebastian Lujan, you know, Earman, when he got pasted for 10 rounds. He's fighting somebody named James Vica. I think it's probably pretty safe to say Castillo will come out the winner in this fight. It's a shame he still has to fight after what he's been through, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, a couple of quick points of interest, and that is that I had reported on my channel that the February card, I believe it's February, between Juan Diaz and his challenge against Juan Manuel Marquez. Originally, Rocky Juarez was supposed to be on that card in Houston at the Toyota Center against WBO featherweight champion Stephen Luovano. Top Rank and Golden Boy couldn't come to terms for Luovano, so Golden Boy owns the rights to WBA featherweight champion Chris John when he fights on this side of the international date line. They have lured him into fighting in Houston and defending his title against Rocky Juarez. This will be Rocky's 5th and final shot. Shouldn't say final, but probably his 5th and final shot at a world title. A lot of you were asking, wow, he's really stepping up. They must have, listen, he's taking less money to do this, Chris John. He was paid $200,000 in his last title defense over in Japan. Richard Schaefer has said he is getting paid considerably less money. I don't know, maybe $150,000, maybe $125,000. I don't know. I don't have the exact figure. But what the case is that he's taking less money to get the huge huge exposure of fighting on regular HBO first time out of the gate. Whereas a lot of fighters, when they're brought over either from Europe or something, they're buried on an undercard somewhere on a pay-per-view fight. So this is like a big opportunity for Chris the Dragon John when he defends his title on that same card against Rocky Juarez, and we'll talk more about that. So next week's going to be a recap of these fights on top of a preview of Mosley and Margarito. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.